Hello. So we have an interesting question here of project scheduling management. It's part of a wider set of questions. An example is given. We won't go through the example. We'll just jump right into this. So basically, the question requires an understanding of sequencing of activities and coming up with a network diagram and using that analyzing that network diagram to get the early start date as well as the late start date. And when that is done, to then come up with a budget up to a certain period within the schedule or within the network diagram. A solution is presented here, but this may not be straightforward enough. So we'll take this opportunity to practice our network diagram and activity sequencing. So we'll go back to the table and look at what we have. So we have 8 activities, I believe, A to H. All of them estimated at $10,000 or naira or whatever currency it is per week. Okay, so for example, activity A is $10,000 per week and its duration is 2 weeks, so that comes to a total of $20,000. Similarly, B is 3 weeks at $10,000 per week, so that takes us to $30,000, and so on and so forth. So we are also given the sequence relationship between them. They are all finished to start. However, some of them have some complicated relationship with their predecessor activities. So let's get into it. Okay. So looking at the question we had previously, we have that activity A and B, or activities A and B, they start out with no dependencies. So we easily represent that with okay, let's go with a different color so that we can use red to represent our critical path later. Still red. So this is activity A. Oh, okay, I need to change this. Can I change this? Is this going to be not on or not? Okay. So we have activity A. It starts on week 1 and its duration is 2 weeks. So let's say we have 2. And activity B, what do you have? It starts on week 1 as well. Its duration is 3 weeks, so it goes on to week 3. Now remember, because this question addresses the concept of early start and early start, late starts. This is the general nature of how we represent activities. So this is the activity, this is the early start, early finish, late start, and late finish. Okay, so keep that in mind as we proceed. So we have A and B. Now, activity C starts when A finishes. So we can put a C here. and it's a straight finish to start the relationship. So if A finishes on week 2, we say starts week 3, its duration is 2 weeks. So we have 3 onto 4. Then we have activity D. D starts when A and B finish. So D cannot start when A finish. D cannot start immediately after A. It has to wait for B as well. So let's see. We can put our D down here. This is D. A finishes on the 2nd week. B finishes on the 3rd week. So what does this mean for D? It means that even though A is finished, D still has to wait for B. So consider this to be, for example, you are making eba and stew to serve your guests, right? Say eba finishes at 1 o'clock and stew finishes at 2 o'clock. Because the guests will not eat eba alone, the guests will not start eating up until the stew finishes. So that's what's happening here. So we'll have to factor in the finish date for B. So this will make activities D. The earliest it can start is week 4. And because it's a 4-week activity, it will go up onto week 7. 4, 5, 6, 7, right? That's the early start. Now we have E. Right, E finishes, or E starts when C finishes. So we can bring E over here. This is E. It's a finish starts with C. So this is C. C. So let's put the relationship. So E will start on week 5, and it's also 4 weeks. So it will go up onto 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. We also have F that starts after C as well. So very similar to this. Let's put our F down here. Okay, this is F. This goes down. So similar to this, it starts on week 5 and it lasts for 3 weeks. So this will go up onto 7, week 7. That's F. Then G. G starts after D and E. This is D, this is E. This makes it a bit complicated because of how this is located. There will be some overlap, but all the same, we can come to G. Let's put G down here. Okay, so if this is G, we have this. Now, G starts after D and E. D finishes by 7, E finishes by 8. So the earliest start, right? The earliest start for G, just permit me to do this. The earliest start for G is going to be 9. It's going to be 9. G is a 5-week activity, so this will span up until 13. Okay. And then after G, we have H. H has dependency on F and G. So we can put our H here. This is H. So when is the earliest date that H can start? So it has dependency on F and G. Okay. Even though F finishes by 7, H has to wait until G is completed. So the earliest that G can start is 14, right? And this will go up until 15. Okay, so we've done the forward pass. What we've just done is the forward pass. With the forward pass, we're able to get our early starts and early finish dates. Now we're going to do our reverse pass. So forward pass, let me use this. Okay, forward pass, forward pass, and it helps us get our early starts and early finish dates. Now reverse pass is the other way. We get our late starts and our late finish dates. So what do? We start with this, knowing that this is the last day of the project. So we start week 15, it goes to week 14. Now, based on this, if we were to go to G, what's the latest date that G can finish without impacting the latest start for H? The latest date it can finish is week 13, and then when we factor in the duration, we have 9 and 13, right? Similarly, if we come here to F, so when we're doing our reverse pass, this is called reverse pass. When we're doing our reverse pass, we are looking at all of the inputs into the activity, all of the we are taking steps back into the predecessor activity. H has two predecessors, G and F. So we've been able to step into G and seen that the latest start and latest finish are 9 and 13 respectively. For F, similarly, we'll take a step back. So it means that F, the latest it can finish without impacting the late start of H will be what? Yes, it will be 13. And when you factor in this will be 11. So the late finish for F is 13. Late start for F is what? Is 11. Now let's take G. G has two predecessors. It has E and D, right? For let's take D first. What's the latest finish that D can have that won't impact on G, on G's late start? If we take that will be 8. Okay, that will be 8. And when we factor in the duration, the late start for D will be 5. Similarly, what's the late start for E, right? What's the late finish? Apologies. What's the late finish for E that won't impact the late start for G? Again, that will be 8. And minus 3 in this case will be 5. Okay. Then now it's interesting. We need to take a step into C, right? We need to go to C. Now C feeds into E and F. E has a different late start date than F, right? For E, the late start date is 5, and for F, the late start is 11. Now the question we have to ask ourselves is, what is the latest finish date for C that will not impact this is going to be a tongue twister. What is the latest finish date for C that will not impact the nearest, right? The nearest late start for the successor activities. If you look at this, if you look at E and F, that will have to be, we'll have to factor in the dates for E rather than F. I'll explain it shortly. So let's take this. This will be 4 and this will be 3. What does this mean, right? What does this mean? This means that if we're to pick, if we're to consider for F, and we say, okay, instead of 4, that this should be 10, it will mean that automatically it will shift the late start for E, in which case our project will shift. Remember, we're coming from a point where the project is not going to shift. 15th week is the 15th week. Nothing will shift that. We're only looking at, okay, what are the slacks? What are the adjustable dates within the project? So in here, there's no way we can't accommodate C overlapping E, even though it has some room to that we can play with if it was just F. But because E is here, E has set sort of like an iron bar for it. Okay, so the latest finish date for C has to be that it doesn't affect the latest start date for E. I hope that is clear. Okay, so I'll erase this. Now back to this routine. So we are at C and D. Now back into A and B. B, I think, is straightforward. The latest possible finish for B that won't affect D will be 4, week 4. And when we factor in the duration, the latest start will be, or the late start will be 2. So B activity B, for example, we can afford not to start activity B on the first week. We can delay it by a week because it's not going to impact D, right? Now let's look at A. What's the latest start for A that will not affect, right? Or what's the latest finish for A that will not affect, the smallest, the latest, the smallest late start date for its successful activity? We'll have to pick the one on C, in which case this will be 2 as well, and this will be 1. If you look at this, something jumps straight to us. You'll find that there are several network paths here. We have A, C, E, G, and H. We have A, C, F, H. We have A, D, G, H. We have B, D, G, and H. Okay, so there are at least 4 paths. Now, you'll find that some of them, their late start dates, right, equal their early start date, right? In this case, let me change this ink to red. So in this case, A is an example of such its late start, right? Its early start equals its late start. Similarly, C, its early start equals its late start. E is the same. Okay, E is the same. G is the same. Okay, G is the same, and H as well is the same. What does this mean? I've taken time to write down on paper. It means that this way we can easily determine our critical path activities, right? The activities that are on the critical path. Okay. So this is one of the ways to define critical path. The critical path activities whose early start equals their late start, or whose early finish equals their late finish, or by implication, it's any activity that has the late start minus the early start, or the late finish minus the early finish equals 0. That's a critical path activity. That's an activity that is on the critical path. So it's important to note that. Okay, now for the others, what's the implication? Now, what the implication of that is that an activity that is that has 0, that has this kind of condition, it means it has no slack. Any delay to that activity will push the project finish date. That's the meaning. As against, if we were to take activity H or activity F, for example, if F for some reason doesn't start on week 5, maybe it starts on week 7, right? F takes 3 weeks. If it starts on week 7, right, it will finish by week 9. So the 9 will be somewhere here. You see that there's still time. This will not affect this end date or this start date of H, right? So that's the meaning of this. So from this we can have a critical path. So immediately we've answered one of the questions there, which is what? Draw the network diagram. We've drawn the network diagram, analyze the network, and find the early start and late start dates. We've done that. Okay, so you can see that, as I said, the early start is on your top left corner. The late start is on your bottom left corner of your activity node. Now, estimate the cumulative budget only up to the end of the period 10 using the late start date. So this is where it gets a bit interesting. Okay, and this may be a mouthful to explain. So what do we have here? Only up to what? Period 10. Let's look for period 10 first. Let me erase some of this. Just take this away. using the late start, let's see where period 10 takes us. So late start, A's late start is period 1, B's late start is period 2, D is period 5, C is period 3, E is period 5, F is period 11. So it won't feature in our calculation. It has gone beyond the period we're given to. G is what? Period 9. So that falls in. So we're going to be looking at the budget at period 10 using late start will include activity A, B, C. How do I erase it? C, D, E, and G. Okay. Now, A is how long will A take? A will take 2 weeks at 10k per week. B will take, I think, 3 weeks at 10k per week as well. C takes 2 weeks, similarly at 10k. D is what? 4 weeks, okay, at 10k per week. And all of D, where's D? Okay, D finishes on week 8, so that's fine. E will take how many as well? Is this 2 weeks or this is 4 weeks? E is 4 weeks, again at 10k per week. And G starts week 9, it goes on until week 13. So if we are looking at period 10, that's week 10. So I think we'll be looking at just the 2 weeks. It starts at week 9, then we take week 10. Remember, week 10 is the cutoff. Okay, again at 10k per week. So now if we were to calculate this, we would have this to be 20. So the budget we have for activity A, we're assuming we finished it, is 20k. This is 30k. This is 20k as well. 40k. And G, remember G, even though G has 5 weeks as a period, according to the late start, by week 10 we would only have done 2 weeks of G, so we'll be calculating for 2 weeks of G. So that will be what? 20k. If we were to sum this up, what are we going to get? This should be 50, 70, 110 plus 60, 170k. So the budget by the 10th week, we expect to have a budget, to accommodate, 170k. So this is these are the answers to the